Hi, it's HiCash Talk. Today with me, a very interesting person from a small startup you may know. So with me is Paul, let me get it straight, Heffernan.
That's it, yeah.
Right, very British name. And he's from Revolut. You are the Chief Information Security Officer. And today we're going to talk about how does it feel to build a bank from scratch, I assume, or a financial institution.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, okay, cool. So before we start, if you like this show, if you like this program, do not forget to subscribe, give a like, and watch the rest of our programs at hicash.pl. All right, Paul, so let's get straight into it because you work for an amazing company. It's like a golden boy of fintech startups, basically of the whole new economy world and banking world. But could you tell us how did you get to this place? What type of path do you have to walk?
I've always been a passionate customer. I loved what Revolut were doing. Loved the idea that I could have my bank account in my hand and look after all my security, in-app and this kind of thing. And my background is I'm an ethical hacker.
Yeah.
So I was one of the first people in the UK to do a full university degree of ethical hacking. So I've always been interested in security and how you break stuff and how you get into systems, obviously with my white hat on, for good reason.
Right.
And it was the perfect opportunity to take all of that knowledge and put it into a really fast-growing company and get security right from the beginning.
Right. So what does it mean that you are an ethical hacker? Because I think everyone understands. Maybe it's a bit 90s question, but everyone understands what a hacker is, like trying to break into places, online places. But what a white hat or ethical hacker is
using exactly that mindset, but just for good. So people with that background, they often do things like bug bounties. So they'll work with companies, look for security issues, and often they get paid or get free stuff or get some membership. And it's just using that hacker knowledge for good. So I've done work in the past with charities, with other companies, just helping them improve their security and keeping them safe.
Right. So how many times have you been arrested before you went to the... Had you been arrested before you went to the bright side?
No. That's the great thing about being ethical. You never get arrested.
Okay. Right. Fair enough. I thought it's sort of like this Angelina Jolie film where you start on the dark side and then you slowly turn. All right. And so you were doing plenty of work in this ethical hacking area, and then you just knocked on Revolut's door? Or?
Well, I was actually a chief information security officer before for a really big company in the UK that deals with logistics and manufacturing and things like this. And I've always been interested in the world of banking and finance, so it was just a perfect opportunity of great financial opportunity with a fintech, and then wanting somebody who's got some security knowledge. So
okay. But did you have to break into Revolut? So because it's quite popular. What would you say? Like the prices for finding flaws, of course. Like Google is very famous for it. Facebook, or everyone who's actually on top of hackers list, I assume. But so what did you have to do to?
So thankfully I didn't have to break into Revolut as part of the job interview. I just had an interview with Vlad, one of our co-founders, and we talked a lot about what security things worry him from a Revolut perspective. And he actually said to me, come in and build a bug bounty. So we run this now, and we help people identify security vulnerabilities in our systems in a ethical way, so we can fix them and keep the customers safe.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we're getting to the core of our conversation. What is the difference between like a regular credit card company or a banking company and Revolut? What are the similarities? What are the differences?
Yeah, so the first thing is we are completely app only. So you download the app, you go through the onboarding process, and you have yourself a local current account.
Right.
And that can be as quick as 2 minutes from going through the application process to being ready to go. So we've tried to speed up the banking process, remove this friction that people have often had as customers where, in the old days you had to go into a bank branch and take in your passport or your driving license and just keep everything really smooth and easy to use. And then if you've got one of our cards, you can go into the app. This is one of our metal cards. You can go into the app and you can turn off things like contactless, the magnetic stripe, all of these kinds of things in real time. So we've tried to give a lot of features to our customers from a security perspective, and then build all of these other features into the app around buying cryptocurrencies, sending money abroad, all of these features that people want in a modern financial application.
Right. So what you just said, it sounds very similar to a classic credit card company, because the biggest focus is on the entrance point, where you secure. Well, you make sure that the person that uses the card is the person who should have the right to use the card, so to speak, right? Yeah. So that's that. Is it different for you here? I mean, you can customize all the features, like you said. You can turn some things on, off, and on. But what about some deeper issues, like when it comes to scale, for example? Or
that's a great question. So a big challenge at the minute from a cybersecurity perspective is all of these breaches that are happening worldwide and people losing their data. So what we've tried to do is look at this and see if we can add features that make the impacts of cybercrime much lower. So a good example of us, many of us buy things online and we have to enter our payment data. Yeah. And many data breaches have happened. Just last year, Marriott Hotels is a good example, where people were booking hotel rooms online and they lost their credit card information. So one of the features we've built is this virtual disposable card number. So you buy a product online and you put in a uniquely generated card number that we will give you in the app. The transaction goes through and we delete that card number and create a new one for you. Right. So if your card payment data was ever stolen, it doesn't work anymore. Right. So we're just adding more features like this to try and keep people safe from cyber security attacks and payment fraud and things like this.
Because this is an important point, right? Most breaches, they happen on the side of the third side parties, not really between you and your customer. Just something interesting. So it works much like Apple Pay, I assume.
Similar, yeah. This idea with Apple Pay is that the merchant never needs to get your card details. We go one step further by saying they don't even get, it's a one-time piece of data they get. They don't get the ability to see the card number or any of this action. And as soon as the transaction goes through, it's recreated. So if you were able to steal that payment data, you can't reuse it because it's now been deleted.
Right, so that's great. So in terms of being cyber secure, do you see yourself as safer than traditional banking solutions? Or?
Well, I think many of these features make the security level stronger for many customers. The ability that you can change these features in-app, you can create a virtual credit card number. Both us and traditional banks say we face the same kinds of threats, people who are trying to steal other people's money, and we work a lot with other financial institutions to share knowledge on this. We're fighting together, these bad guys. But we hope by adding more and more features like this, we give this trust and security to the customer so that they have the ability to control their own security whilst we do everything we can to keep their data safe as well.
Right. So, but when it comes to cybersecurity, do you see, do you try to secure the system, or do you try to secure the human factor? Or
both. I mean, from my perspective, I really strongly believe in culture and human factors when it comes to security. We can add all of the technology and processes that we want, but if people don't understand why they need to do this, then this doesn't really matter. So we do a lot of work, not just educating customers on cybersecurity issues, but of course our employees. So training them on what the latest attack techniques are and what the latest scams look like, and giving this knowledge to our employees so they can in turn keep our customers safe. And for me, this is like the very first step in building good security, getting a really strong security culture inside the organization. So so how many Nigerian scams have been paid with Revolut to this day? I'm sure it's not that many compared with the bigger financial institutions, but these issues are going to always occur with customers, regardless of whether they're banking with us or other companies. So we have a really strong part to play in educating our customers, and this means, for instance, if you've been affected by a data breach that involves your payment information and you're a Revolut customer, we tell you about that. There's not many other financial institutions that are doing this, and we're thinking of new ways that we can keep your personal data safe. So if it gets lost or stolen, we can alert you. These are the kind of new features we're thinking about.
Right. So in terms of sharing information with the old players, so to speak, do you see it as a opportunity for you to just grow into the system, to grow into people's minds, or do you prefer to sort of put yourself aside a bit, just like because you've built this great product based on no fees for changing currencies and so on. So is it helpful for you in terms of gaining new customers, or are you having a more secure system?
Well, I think one of the main reasons people choose the bank they decide to store their money with is not because it's the cheapest or the best customer service. It's fundamentally because they trust that organization. So we can have the cheapest possible fees, we can have the best features, but if you don't trust us to look after your money, you're not going to use us. So this is why it's a really important point for us to make sure security is built into everything we do, and this is why we add these features for our customers to use, so that they can feel that we will honor that trust and we will look after their money.
Right, and in terms of future of cybersecurity, do you see some threats that are emerging, but nobody really talks about them, or maybe not really a threat, but some sort of like development? I don't know, paying with cryptocurrencies for the information that is stored about you as a user, not about the Revolut.
Well, I mean, where I'd love to see in the future from a cybersecurity perspective is we don't need to remember passwords anymore.
Okay.
And we've kind of got this already with biometrics and Face ID and things on our phone. But did you know the average person has like 30 passwords they have to remember?
Actually, since I've installed this recent operating system by Apple, they show me how often I use the same passwords on each site.
Exactly.
So I am aware that I only use one. 2 tops.
So of course what happens is the cyber criminals take down one of these websites, get your password, and then try it on all of the other websites they know that you use. So they don't actually need to guess anymore. Yeah. Because they got the 1, 2, 3 or 4 passwords you use everywhere. Yeah. So this is a really big problem, and this is why I would always encourage people to use a password manager or some technique to try and set unique passwords and store them safely. But in the future, I'd love to get to a position where we don't actually need passwords anymore, and we're using Face ID or other techniques to sign into systems, so we don't have this weakness of the human brain trying to remember passwords.
Right, but from your perspective and in terms of thefts, cyber thefts, do you see them happening en masse, like with the Marriott breach or something like that, or do you see more of I would say narrowed down, like person by person attacks? How does it work?
At the minute, it's very kind of mass attacks. I think whilst attackers are able to get personal data so easily, there's no need to focus on specific people. Of course, some celebrities and politicians get attacked personally, but most people, me and you, we just swept up in some big data breach that involved millions of other people. So this is why it's so important. We do just small little things to run a little bit faster than the bear. Whatever we can do to stay ahead of the cyber criminal helps us. Just even by setting a longer password is a good example of this.
Right. And is there any sort of scam that we should be really aware of, not only in terms of credit card payments, but a new Nigerian prince emerging on the stage?
Well, have you heard about the Nigerian astronaut who's stuck in space and needs your money to get back?
Yeah.
This is I think a funny one, but not a particularly serious one. The one that's quite serious at the minute that is affecting a lot of people is the attackers find out one of their passwords. So they will find your password to a website, usually because they've been involved in a data breach. And then they'll send you an email saying, we caught you looking at some porn or some adult material, and
thank God I haven't done that in my life.
To prove, this is your password.
Okay.
And of course, most people immediately go, well, they know this. They've activated my webcam remotely, and they've sent me my password as proof. And this is very effective in tricking people into sending their money to the scammers. But of course, this is a lie, and they've just got your password
like
and some data breach.
Basically.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. What about how popular is this blocking your computer and getting a ransom from you in cryptocurrency? Is it really a thing?
So 2016.
Okay, thank God.
No, it was.
It's when Bitcoin was worth something.
Yeah, I think ransomware is always going to be an issue particularly for businesses, where if you're an organization and you have all of your computers affected by ransomware, then your business stops running. And while attackers can get away with this, they will. But I think attacks are now getting a little more personalized, with things like your personal data and passwords being included to show that we've got your data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Great. So one last thing I'm really interested in, because Revolut comes from a fintech, the thinks differently, not things different, Apple thinks differently from the old companies. Do you think you can, or do you have plans to like become something more for your customers than just a card that pays for their purchases?
Well, I'd hope so. We're adding more and more features every month to become this kind of not just this place that you store the money, but you can save with your friends and have collective saving vaults. You can use things like airport lounges. We're adding more and more features to be this kind of global lifestyle brand, and who knows where it may go in the future. But we started in fintech. We may be somewhere else in the future. But yeah.
But is there any like your pet project inside Revolut that you would really like to see come to fruition?
Yeah, from my perspective, I would love to add more and more features from a cybersecurity perspective. So one of the things that I'm looking at is there a way we could actually protect your digital identity?
Yeah.
So when you register with us, we can track if your data is on the dark web or is being sold by cyber criminals before they actually use it for a scam. So features like this, I think, would these are the ones I'm really interested in. But there's lots of other cool things that people are working on in different areas. Some of which I can't talk about just yet.
Obviously, yes, yes. But I assume blockchain would be a great solution to that problem.
And I think blockchain's one of these solutions that's looking for a problem.
That's true.
And there's lots of misunderstanding about what blockchain can do and what it can't do. And I think we're learning more and more about how we could use it in Revolut and how we could use it to keep our customers safe, as one example. Yeah. So who knows, in a couple of months or years, we may be doing something.
That would be cool. I just wanted to use it as a buzzword because I haven't heard it for quite some time on the internet. Right, cool. Are you staying in Poland for a longer time?
I only have half a day left. I literally, I was in to do some interviews.
Let's end this. Right, okay. So I hope you won't get scammed, and I hope you have a good stay. Thank you for coming here talking about cybersecurity. And I promise I will sign up for Revolut. Right. So it was Paul. I'm sorry. It was Paul Heffernan. Are you like your origin somewhere in?
It's Irish.
Irish.
So yeah, it's actually O Heffernan, which it means to look after sheep and cows and animals.
What happened to the O?
Yeah, well, it's when the English took it and turned it into...
All right. Yeah, but maybe the Brexit will bring you back. Hey. Okay, so Paul was with me from Revolut. We had a really nice chat about cybersecurity. So kids, stay safe. Do not watch porn because people will scam you on it. And subscribe and watch some more of HiCash Talk and other videos we have for you. Thank you very much again, and see you next time.
See you soon.